All right, welcome, Buddy Book Club. I'm Dylan here with my own trusty friend, Keith. What's up, buddy?
Episode 80. We made it. This is the last episode of the year. We've been 80 in total.
I can't wait until like 200 years from now when someone's trying to decipher this audio and just not understanding the language that we speak because it's just idiotic. So they'll be like, this can't be English. I know what English is.
Maybe they'll do us a favor and translate it similar to like how they translated Cloud Cuckoo Land. And they were like, they meant well by everything they said.
That idiom he said, 2 birds equals a bush. That sounds very interesting. I think it means this. You spoiled it. You know, you put the cart before the horse. You buried the lead. Here we're breaking down some bestsellers. And this week we'll be discussing Cloud Cuckoo Land by Anthony Doerr. Doerr. If you'd like to recommend a book for us to read or reach out to us about past episodes, you can visit our website, buddybookclub.com, slide into our DMs on Twitter or Instagram or TikToks, Buddy Book Club Podcast. You can listen to us on iTunes, Spotify, so please download and subscribe. Keith, 426 on Goodreads. I feel like this is another quintessential book club book. If you're in a book club and you haven't read this one, it should be on your list. I feel like this one would have a lot of those discussion points about book clubs that we kind of love to hate. But at the same time, I think I'd be interested in chatting about them. But Cloud Cuckoo Land, it follows 5 protagonists through past, present, and future who are all bound together through an ancient text that is Cloud Cuckoo Land. Keith, how do you say the word ancient?
Asinine? What?
Things from the past. Ancient.
Oh, ancient?
Yeah.
Ancient?
So, yeah, you say it like I do. Ancient.
How is it supposed to be said?
A lot of people are giving me crap because I was playing code names and I used it as a clue. And they're like, what word are you saying? And I'm like, ancient. They're like, there's no G in it. I'm like, I know how to spell it. I'm just saying ancient.
Did I say with a G?
I think you did.
All right.
Whatever. Cloud Cuckoo Land.
Would that have to do with anything?
No, I read it and I was thinking about it because I get a lot.
All right.
I get a lot of crap about it in my daily life, which is odd. But I don't know. I think I suggested this like a long time ago. And you had read All the Lights We Cannot See, which is another one of Tony's books. We're going by Tony, by the way. We're buddies. Let's get into Cloud Cuckoo Land. Keith, what do you got for stock up, stock down, stock up? What do you got?
Stock up being a terrorist.
Oh, okay. Are you like the Buffalo Bills head coach over here?
Yeah. Let me start off by saying I really did like this book. I liked it a lot, actually. But I'm going to start with a rant here that I need to get out of the way because I think it's very important.
The floor is yours.
Seymore is just one of the worst characters. I mean, I've said this a lot, but he's just one of the worst characters of all time. He's a domestic terrorist that's painted in like a positive light for some reason. I have no idea why. But let's first establish what I think the core of the book is, why I liked it. It's really about 5 people, more 4 of them that are dealt really bad hands in life, that don't have a lot of friends, don't have a lot of family, a lot of tragedy, and they overcome it and live somehow seemingly like good lives and pass along this story, right? That's what it's about. Except for Seymore. We got Omeir. He's born with a cleft lip. He's basically like a demon and like ruins his whole family.
Well, he's not a demon, but I know what you're saying.
No, yeah, they believe he's a demon. Sorry, he was a really good person. Basically, his only friends are his animals, which he has to work to death. Then we found Anna. She's an orphan. Her sister's got hit over the head. Zeno, POW. We got Konstance, who's just trapped in a room. Her whole family and everyone she knows dies. These are such tough stories for all these people. And then we have the other guy that we're supposed to pity for some reason, Seymore. Mm-hmm. Who cares about him? His mom does everything she can for him. Just gives up like her whole life for him. He has a girlfriend. He has a librarian friend. He has teachers that are looking after him. He's all these support systems and people that actually care about him. Maybe he has some mental issues.
Well, he's definitely autistic.
Autistic, probably. But who cares? All these other characters are sympathetic because they have to overcome much worse things, in my opinion. Are we supposed to sympathize with terrorists now? Like if the Boston bomber is autistic, he's not a bad guy. He made a bomb and blew up some people, but he's autistic. What are we doing here? I don't understand the message of that. Really upset me because I didn't like him in any way. And nothing about him's good. He's a completely selfish character. I don't care what his issues were. He's anti everyone else's character in this book. So fuck Seymore. Sorry. Go ahead. Do you agree? Am I crazy?
I do agree. I think that there are some other factors, but
he killed 2 people, or almost killed 2 people. He killed 1 at least.
Yeah, he did, for sure. Seymore is also one of those names. Like you said, Stanley's always like good people. Like, is a Seymore always a bad person?
Give me some example. Richard
Well,
Seymore?
the only one we have, Seymour Smithers, I guess, is the only one I really know of.
Okay. I didn't even know his first name was. I thought that was Mr. Smithers, right?
Yeah, I think it's Seymore Smithers. And also from The Simpsons, they'd always call in and have him, Bart would say, Seymore Butts. Seymore Butts. I think with Seymore, you just don't come after someone's trusty friend. It's really that simple. If no one had killed his owl, he would have been chill. If there wasn't people driving into his town with RVs that got 2 AC units on top.
How is that different than any other terrorists, though?
Well, it's not. But one man's terrorist is another man's freedom fighter.
I knew you were going to say that. If he wanted to be a patriot and go full out, fine, I can respect that at least. But no, but he's painted as this like sympathetic character. Get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, well, one of my first stock up is if it's too good to be true, it probably is. And this also ties to Seymore because if a beautiful, like-minded person of the opposite sex or same sex, if that's for you, contacts you via the internet saying they'll get naked and roll in a pollution-free grass with you, but you have to blow up a building, the person probably doesn't have your best interests in mind. And with Seymore, young people, which is the focus of this book, it's all about young people. And when Tony was asked, why does the book focus around young people, he was saying, they're not necessarily impressionable, but like the world hasn't been like calloused to them yet, like there's still wonderment to it, and they can see things and be awestruck by sometimes the most mundane things that we take for granted. So you like that about young people, and Seymore has that in that he is passionate about nature and preservation. It's just like all young people, it can kind of get pushed one way or the other. He's at a tipping point, and I'm not saying this is to his fault or not his fault. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not saying he's a good person and that just got pushed the wrong way, because he did go into this like deep dive hole. But it also makes me think of people nowadays that have a bunch of time in their hands and like go on YouTube and just like get sucked into this stuff, or whenever you watch these like cult documentaries and you're just laughing at these people like, how the hell did you get it caught up in one of these things? But in some ways, I feel like it can happen to any of us. It's just the right things have to happen at the right times for then like you to be sucked into that idea.
Well, he got American History X, so right,
Yeah.
He was like similar to that. But American History X, they kind of paint the picture of had things gone differently for these people, if they were born in different circumstances, or if they were things that happened different in their life, they'd be really smart people that would have took it a different path.
Yeah.
But because they were influenced in this way, Seymore, everything he does sucks. He's just a selfish person in every single scene. I know he has like issues mentally, right? But like, he's still being a selfish asshole every time, every scene they have. So there's no like redeeming quality. What's his redeeming quality? He likes the environment. So does fucking tons of other people. Who cares? Like, what does that matter?
So do the Inuits. Whatever.
Yeah. But I mean, the same. Like, why does that make him special? He's just like, well, this is my point of view, and that's the best. Okay. Yeah. His girlfriend was a much better person. She actually was in that club. She like developed it and like was working.
But I
on
can
things.
kind of see Seymour's side from it in the sense of, it's like all the people nowadays who talk about, oh, they saw the one video of the turtle that had a straw in its nose, and it's like, don't use plastic straws, use paper straws. And I feel like that, no one likes a paper straw. They're terrible.
No, terrible.
They're honestly the worst thing. I like to savor my iced coffee. I like to let it linger. All of us middle class, lower middle class, poor people, the people going to Dunkin' Donuts, we have to drink out of paper straws, but the rich people can go fly around on private jets and, ruin the earth and all of the other terrible things, like corporations. Like, how many of those plastic straws totals up to one private jet ride? So we have to make all these consolations, but they don't. And I can see how he's looking at the group in school being like, this is a drop in the bucket. Granted, I think they're doing nice things. They're doing sit-ins and they're trying to get people to use sustainable sources and all that stuff. Sure, but unless there's buy-in from literally every Fortune 500 company, then it's useless. They were saying even in the book, like, to process all the data, or the servers for all the data uses enough resources for whatever, a massive amount. It uses more resources than everything else.
My favorite tweet, BP being like, "What are you doing to reduce the emissions?" And like, or how are you pledging? And he responds, "I pledge not to spill 4.9 million barrels of oil into the Gulf of Mexico." One of the best responses ever.
So, I can see how you can be disenchanted by the world, especially when you're seeing your hometown, which is like a beautiful nature area, all of a sudden get taken over by rich people who use it for summer vacations and don't take preservation seriously.
As a person, he is the least susceptible. He's, of all the 5 we get, he is number 5. If you told me that Omeir became a terrorist, I'd be like, yeah, I'd become a terrorist, 100%. I'm getting ostracized by my community because of something I was born with. It had nothing to do with me.
Well, that's the same as Seymore. He's autistic. It had nothing to do with him.
Nothing that's happening to him is what's happening to Omeir or to half of these other people. He has people that care about him. Zeno, you look at, he's a POW in a war camp. He comes back and nobody gives a fuck about him.
Did you kill any people over there? What? I'm just trying to get coffee.
Yeah, if you want to become a communist, I wouldn't even blame him. I'd have empathy for these people. For Seymore, though, he has all these people that like him, and he has all these support system, and he has all this stuff in place. Yeah. So get out of here.
Well, Seymore definitely took it too far.
Yeah, just a little too far, you think? Building a couple bombs and shooting a person?
But at the end, it's interesting because he redeems himself a bit. He redeems himself a good amount by, obviously you can't redeem murdering people, but at the same time, by creating all of this stuff for whatever that company is.
I have a stock about that later.
In the Atlas. So
I'm not done with Seymore by a long shot.
All right. What else you got for stock up?
All right, let's get this back to a little bit more lighthearted. But,
yeah, sure. That wasn't lighthearted?
80-year-olds 40 times stock up. I mean, my boy Zeno has 4 to 5 rings on a cell phone to get the backpack out of the library before it blows up.
Yeah.
I mean, my man just... I don't know what happened. I think he's 86 at this point. Yeah. He turns into Ferris Bueller from Ferris Bueller's Day Off when he's running home and like the music's playing. You know what I'm talking about?
I do.
He's like jumping over fences, doing all that stuff. He gets out in 4 rings, like into the woods away from every person. I was like, wait, what? How is this possible? So we need to get the clock on his 40 time, and we didn't understand, why this guy wasn't in the NFL.
Well, you know what it is. Every morning he gets up and does 50 push-ups. Simple as that.
Is that right?
That's it. Every morning
I missed that.
He gets up, does 50 push-ups. I was telling a friend when I used to actually be somewhat physically fit, he was like, wow, it was the summer. He was like, what are you doing to stay fit? I was like, I wake up, I do 10 pull-ups. That's it. I was eating healthy at the time. And my mindset was, if I can do 10 pull-ups a day, there won't be a day that I can't do 10 pull-ups, right? Just thinking about it is like, I'll always be able to do 10 pull-ups if you do it every single day. So similarly, if you're an 86-year-old man, but you've done 50 push-ups every morning for the last 40 years.
How does that help his legs running?
Push-ups are a full body exercise. If you're not squeezing those glutes and squeezing those abs when you're doing push-ups, then you're out of there. And he's also down in that plank position. Maybe he's throwing some hill climbers in there or whatever you want to call them. He's mixing it up. Yeah. So, also probably living off rice starch for like 5 years in a Korean war camp probably helps with your physical fitness down the road.
Yeah,
No,
there you go.
Definitely not. My next stock up is violence towards animals.
Okay.
I want to be clear, I do not support violence towards animals. All right. I want that to be really clear to the PETA folks out there. But if you want me to care about something, whether that's a TV show, a documentary, a story, you start being a dick to animals and I'm going to be pissed. So I am on board. So the Seymore thing, why I gave him a break because someone hurt his owl. I was like, all right, someone fucks with my owl. I'm my trusty friend. I'm with you. I understand whatever you want to do. If you want to blow up, whatever, go for it. And Omeir, our buddy, his whole storyline, which I loved, by the way, it was so painful for me to see Moonlight and Tree get just worked to death.
Yeah.
Everything that was happening in Constantinople with all the people, the potential for, ravaging and looting and the ruining of a historic and beautiful city. I didn't care about any of that, but I did care when they started hurting all these animals. I was like, why do we need to do this? Why can't people just be nice to each other? Like, so you're going to go in there, ruin a great city, take it over, rape and pillage, and just take all the stuff? Like, it all seems so useless to me. But it really was spurned for me by the fact that, Tree and Moonlight.
Wait, so hurting animals is a stock up?
Well, violence towards animals, is a stock up, because if you create some violence towards animals, then I'm involved.
It's like why John Wick is such a good movie. It's every
100%.
single other action movie, but he killed the guy's dog. So it's like, oh, okay. Now I get it. Now I get the story. The storyline changes all of a sudden.
Yeah, it's like
It's like killed his wife. Whatever. It doesn't do much for me.
He's an assassin. Yeah. Okay, cool. Whatever. I don't care about him. But they hurt his dog.
Right.
No.
Yeah. It makes a lot of sense. I got you.
What else you got for stock up?
Mermaid stock up.
Oh, okay. Ariel.
Maybe again, might be my inability to read or just read between the lines or whatnot. But was I the only one that when Zeno got the book and it was about like the attractive male mermaids that had like gills and stuff like that? Mm-hmm. Did you think he was ashamed because he was into mermaids, or is that just me? I was like, wait, he's just really into fish? Like, what's going on? I know he was like, I'm so embarrassed. And I was like, all right, man, whatever floats your boat.
Because he's a gay fish?
I didn't get it. I was like, huh? Like, what do you mean he's into gills? Like, what's
he likes fish sticks. I thought he wanted to do some interesting things, like touch their gills, like, finger their gill holes and stuff like that.
He's into fish. He's into mermaids, which again, we don't hate here. We're not yucking anyone's yum here.
Yeah, I mean, the best part about the world nowadays is if you're into mermaids, there's other people you can connect with who are into mermaids.
Yeah. Merman, Dad. Is that what
yeah, like, and it's not even, it's like, I have a very specific merman kink. Like, you can find that's available to you.
You think so? I'll look right now.
For sure. There are people that dress up as these things and like swim around in pools and stuff like that. I mean, I don't know. I'm just asking for a friend. I did not read it that way. I just thought he was a homosexual.
Okay, you're normal. Okay, no.
So I thought it was the man part that he was interested, not the fin part.
Why was he referencing the gills? It was just weird to me. I don't know.
Yeah, it was. I think maybe because it's a merman, it seems like it's less gay, maybe because it's like it's fantasy. You know what I mean? It's not. This isn't real life. But then he realizes like, oh yeah, I'm just he likes guys, and then he liked Rex, and that was a nice relationship. Except a little sad that they couldn't find their way together.
Also, sounds like Britain was awesome back in the
the swinging 60s.
Yeah, I was like, is Austin Powers at this party that you're at? I'm like, what's going on here?
100%. Yeah, they were having a good time, and then you come back and like someone just got tea for you, just a real nice little wind down. Real good stuff.
Gotta love it.
My next stock up are comedies. I just think there's not enough respect given to them. When you go to the Oscars, comedies never win any Best Picture. They're never going to get Best Director. But there's something special in all of our hearts for comedies. Like, you sit on the couch, and when you've had a long day, I don't want to watch My Left Foot, although it's a great movie. I want to watch something that's funny and can kind of take me out of the situation, which is basically what Cloud Cuckoo Land is, right? It's like an absurdist comedy. And interestingly, how coveted it was, and even when like Rex was talking or Anna was talking to like the scribes or whatever, the translators, they were talking about, oh, it'd be amazing if we found like these old comedies and whatnot from Homer. Like, they don't want these boring texts. Like, they want to know what made people laugh in those times. And also the stories themselves were fun for people in that, like, they have like healing properties almost. If you're all these people are dealing with like pretty terrible-ish situations to different degrees, but like Cloud Cuckoo Land brings them together in one way or another, with Konstance, her dad's reading it to her, Omeir and Anna, like Anna's transcribing it, but then she tells it to her kids. And in these like pretty dismal times, they're just reading a comedy basically and having a laugh.
Doesn't all like Shakespeare have comedy in it? Even like the most tragic stories are all have like jokes and stuff in them.
Do you understand who you're asking? I have no idea.
Just say yes. That's a smart point, Keith.
Yeah,
Keith, don't question me on that.
Yeah, I'm sure they do. I know there's some funny parts in the Leonardo DiCaprio Romeo and Juliet movie.
I was literally just thinking of that phenomenal movie only.
Everybody's free to feel good. I love that song. Yeah, so comedy stuck up. What you got?
Last one for me, coconuts stuck up. I honestly just wrote this as a note, and I don't really remember exactly what happened, but I'm pretty sure they were describing
coconuts as a seed.
Yeah, fruit have to how to survive, to breed, and things like that. And coconuts travel across the oceans.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Pretty cool. That's all I really wanted to say about that. I didn't know if that's true. I tried to look up to find the story in the book. I couldn't find any. I don't know. It's saying it's cool. So I'm here to say, cool. I liked it.
Konstance's dad, who is a farmer on the ship, he's explaining to her like how seeds work, and all of that I find is super fascinating. The coconut one I also enjoyed very much. They have like the 3 little holes, and they're explaining why those things are there, and it makes a lot of sense why coconuts now can float, because they go they're on these beaches because they just landed there and then grew because they got all the stuff in them to procreate. But then they're talking about seeds in general, how they can stay dormant for and pretty much turn their metabolism to 0, and then they have to have the right light. It's the world is a crazy place, man.
Yeah, it's insane.
Wild. It is
coconut
wild.
water sucks, by the way, still. So
I wouldn't buy it, but it sounds refreshing.
It sounds really good, right? Have you never had it?
I have. It's not gross. It's just
coconut shavings.
Nothing.
Just talk to me about that. Those are good.
All right, deal. I will talk to you about it. My last stock up. Well, I got a couple, actually. Libraries, stock up. They're sanctuaries, great places of great knowledge. Everyone in this book has a librarian that they're associated with in one way or another. That obviously means something that I'm too dumb to know. I should probably go talk to a librarian. But they're places of knowledge, and librarians are people that can bring us to that knowledge. They can show us the right places to look. So got to give stock up to libraries. Go to your local library. They're great, wonderful places. The Disney formula, which is you cannot have 2 surviving parents. In all Disney movies, there's at least one parent that's not around or dies during the movie. Same with all of these people, so it seems. And it worked.
Luckily, Konstance hated her mom,
Konstance?
too, though, right? So, Konstance, whatever her name is.
She hated her mom?
She doesn't care at all about her mom. She just talks about her dad the whole time. Mom died, too, I think.
Yeah, it was not a good look for her mom. If her mom's looking down, being like, oh, what's Konstance up to? And she's like, what about Dad? Dad was always doing this stuff. It's like, I'm right here.
She spends 300 days enclosed in that little one room and spends 299 days of those looking into her stuff about her dad. Does nothing else about her mom.
Well, that was a little Easter egg for her, I found that to be super fun too. Just this kind of investigative quest she was going on.
That was in my love. If you give me 10 more chapters on that, I wanted to find out what happens after that. That world was awesome. That was
the
a
Atlas?
great story. Yeah. No, I wanted to see
just Konstance in
she
general.
escapes, and I'm like, great. Let's continue this. Let's look at what the world look like right now. What is she going to be like in society now? I want to see everything.
It's pretty crazy that these people signed up to go on an interstellar trip for humanity. Mm-hmm. And it's actually, this was just the beta. This is just a test run to see if it will work. So you guys aren't going anywhere.
I wanted her tracking down those people and murdering them. And they're not even watching her or anything. So I wonder if a zombie or apocalypse or something happened or something going on there that made it so they weren't watching them anymore. I don't know. I couldn't understand it.
The Konstance storyline in itself is like an M. Night Shyamalan movie.
Yeah.
Just that is very much like The Village.
Yeah, it's like a Black Mirror episode almost.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. My last stock up comes to us from the great movie Joe Dirt, which is Home is Where You Make It.
Yeah, love it. I love Joe Dirt.
So basically the idea that's part of this book is Nostros, which is AKA Homecoming. Everyone has their own version of Homecoming in the book. Konstance, she gets out of the Argos, and then she's presumably has this new life on Earth. Zeno comes back from the war to have this life in Lakeport. Omeir, he returns from the war, and him and Anna, although they have different origin stories, they come back and create their new life, their new home. And Seymore finds his new home in prison. But creating this virtual version of his hometown. So everyone has their own version of Nostros and their homecoming, and I thought that was interesting, and that was maybe the one thing I actually got from I might be smart in this reading this book.
Oh, okay.
Other than that, I'm out.
There's definitely so many things that went over my head on this book for sure, but that's a good one.
Let's get to Stock Down. What do you got for Stock Down?
Stock Down, making a difference. I told
you
I'm not done with Seymore, kid. I'm not done with him. I told you. But at the end, he gets out of jail. We find that he's He's a really good programmer, really talented. It makes sense to him. He found his calling. And he still works at the company where he's covering up images and things like that.
Yeah, Ilium, I want to say it is. Like Ilium, is that the name of it? It sounds right.
Yeah, that sounds right. And he's just covering that stuff up during the day. And at night, he's making a difference by uncovering it.
Yeah.
That's him making a difference.
I liked it. You didn't like that?
I thought it was a little bit far-fetched of like, oh, we're connecting him to Konstance. I didn't love that. How about creating a club that you did in high school and just doing that online, making a club like that so that you're not influencing people similar to you to go do terrorist things. Like that seems like that'd be a good way of use of your programming skills.
It's like LT in The Waterboy or whatever that movie is, and it's like, all right, kids, don't do drugs. He just goes back. He's like, don't become an eco-terrorist. Yeah. I want to say don't smoke crack. I think that's why.
Yeah, like, but you see what I'm saying, right? He has all this knowledge of programming, so he can make websites, he can build things, he can build apps, he could make a site about all the pollution that these companies are causing. He can do all these things with all this knowledge and skills that he has to actually make a difference. And with his history, he could influence people that are similar to him in the similar vein. He's like, hey, use that negative energy you have and put it towards something positive, like doing X, Y, and Z. Mm-hmm. Instead, he's doing this for some program that's only going to affect, 100 people? How many people are on that ship?
Well, he doesn't really know what it's for.
How's that making a difference? He's spending all this time. He's like, I found my calling and I'm still fighting back. I'm like, that's literally the least amount of fighting back you could do. You went from bombing something to putting some Easter eggs in a program that people may or may not see.
Yeah, well,
crazy.
That whole thing is interesting too, just in terms of like the censoring of future people to what actually happened in the past, which is what the company's trying to do. Is like, oh, okay, let's get rid of all the bad things and just make it look perfect.
No, it's supposed to be like Google Maps. They're not going to show a person mooning the camera on Google Maps.
Yeah, I understand that, but at the same time, they make everything look like Pleasantville. So people that would walk around and be like, oh, what's Earth like? If they're on beta 08 or whatever, they're like, oh, what's Earth like? They're like, oh, it's this beautiful place.
These are like 12-year-old kids. You want them to be like, oh, there's all these drug addicts here on this one street.
Yeah, I do. I want them to know what the world is like and what has happened in the past. I think
You're leaving Earth to go find a better place. Why would you want to be like, here's all the bad things that can happen?
Well, maybe that's a reason to show why this place is so good, because that stuff was not so good.
If you don't know history, you're doomed to repeat it.
Exactly. 100%. And I think that's a lot of what's going on in like Constantinople. Like, we don't know all that stuff. Like, who knows? You should know that those terrible things will happen so you don't do them again. Seymore, though, what he does, do you ever watch those David Attenborough documentaries or any of those nature documentaries where they show like deforestation and they show a forest and then immediately like overlay over it what it looks like now and it's just barren?
Yeah.
So he could have used his power to do that for eco, right? So as opposed to doing stuff for future, do stuff for now, saying, here's what we're doing to the world that's ruining it. Because that stuff always moves me. It's like, holy smokes, like these whole swaths of Amazonian rainforest are now nothing. Fern Gully all over again. Mm-hmm. Greatest Mel Gibson movie of all time, Fern Gully.
Wait, what? He's in that?
Yeah, I think so. Oh, Christian Slater. I think Mel Gibson's in it. You have to check me on that.
Okay.
Maybe that's Pocahontas I'm thinking of. Either way, another eco movie, or that's more about imperialism, but whatever. I think he was using his powers for good because by doing all of that stuff, you're showing you can't rewrite the past.
He's doing these little Easter eggs. It's like finding... It's 1 in 100 million that you find this. You pull a lever on a butterfly. You know what I mean?
Konstance figured it out.
That's because she spent 300 days in it. So the average person isn't going to do that. Again, if this was some game, like it's like the Easter eggs you find in games. Like people that play for hundreds of hours will find them eventually. But
all you need is a spark, buddy. All you need is a spark. Konstance is the spark. She goes on to be the world's greatest eco-terrorist. All right, she's Captain Planet. My stock down is audiobooks, and I really hate to say it.
What the hell?
Yeah, I hate to say it. But I listened to this as an audiobook, as did you, as we do most of our books.
It was the same audio voice as Anxious People.
Anxious People, there you go.
Yeah, same audio narrator.
Yeah, she was good. She did all the voices, like the accents. Like her accents were really good. She didn't do voices necessarily, but she did accents. And I was just, wow, like her Australian accent was on, her British accent was on.
just assuming it was. I could be wrong.
Oh, even better. Who knows?
Look it up.
Rewrite your own history. Whitewash it.
Yeah.
But I think what confused me the most about this book was the beginning when it was jumping between the characters, and I didn't really have signposts because I was listening to the audiobook. So even though it'd be like next chapter, it wasn't as clear as if I was reading it, I feel like, where it'd be like Omeir and then I'd read it. It was just kind of jumping between these characters and it was the same voice. So I got a little lost at the beginning, and I think if I had the book, I would have been less lost. So.
I honestly did want to do the same thing, being like, can I go back and see who these people are? And I also wanted to look up the character names, but I was like, I'm going to get spoilers, so I can't do that. So it was one of those, like, damned if you do, damned if you don't type thing.
Yeah.
Marin Ireland, I was correct. She did do also.
Good for you. What else you have for Stock Down?
Last one, Concussion Protocol, Stock Down.
Oh, you're back.
Anna's sister just gets rocked in the head and basically is just concussed like you read about. But she's in the protocol, right? There's no lights. There's no nothing there. She's in dark spaces.
There was a bunch of light that she couldn't see. That's for sure.
And then what is she? Is she taking mercury, by the way?
Yeah. A little quicksilver.
What does that do?
Yeah, it does. It honestly does nothing.
Does it kill her? Is that what's killing her?
It will definitely poison you.
Okay,
that's
I didn't
for sure.
know. Why did it fix her for like a day and then she felt worse? Was it just basically like she's doing some like ridiculously hard drug and then she's like needs more of it and then she ends up dying because of that?
Yeah, I obviously don't know enough about it. I think there are some
Healing
healing-ish properties or like some things that would potentially make you feel better in the short run, but in the long run, it's bad for you.
She has like a broken wrist and she just drinks like a fifth of vodka and is like, dang, I feel really good all of a sudden. I'm like, I don't feel anything. And then, but really it's just like the vodka is going to kill her eventually.
Yeah, I think that's probably about it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, let's go there. You don't know what's happening to your liver or mercury, probably like your brain and every organ. But
but the concussion protocol doesn't work. So take it into account, NFL.
Yeah, sorry, Will Smith, your Oscar performance is out.
I thought you were talking about him and Chris Rock, but all right, go on. Got him.
As opposed to doing like favorite scene, what do we think about like favorite storyline? You have 15th century Istanbul. Istanbul was Constantinople, which by the way I said was putting on the Ritz, but it's not. It's actually a different song. I don't know who it's by, but it's to the tune of Putting on the Ritz.
I don't know any of the words you just said, but yeah, for sure.
Oh, Istanbul, not Constantinople, by the Mighty Bee Giants.
That sounds actually familiar.
Yeah, you would know it if you heard it. 15th century Constantinople, we got Anna and Omeir. Two stories. I'd accept if you said you liked them both. Anna, the young seamstress, Omeir, farm boy, unfortunately defined by his cleft palate there. And we obviously got our boys Moonlight and Tree. We also have 2020 Idaho, Seymore. Is definitely not going to be your favorite, we know. The underprivileged autistic kid who's had some tough times and gets caught up in the group of eco-terrorists. And Zeno, our boy, Korean War vet, runs a 4.40, works in the library and translates ancient Greek texts. And then we got 22nd century Konstance, our teenage girl. She's on a generation ship headed off for a planet called Beta Off 2. Which one of those, when they came up, because I'm kind of thinking, I don't know if you read Game of Thrones, but each chapter for Game of Thrones is like a different character.
Yeah.
And sometimes you'd be really enjoying that storyline, and then it would jump off to a different character. You'd be like, oh, fudge. And then it would be like 300 pages before you got back to that character. So did you feel that for any of these, or were you fine jumping between them?
I did like the jumps between them. I told you Konstance was, the story in general, I think was the best. I think Zeno's one was like the most heartbreaking. So that one was tough because I don't think he didn't have a good life at all. It was just a really shitty life. I felt really bad for him.
Yeah.
Whereas Konstance, she's getting out. She's still young. She has her whole life ahead of her. Anna and Omeir had everything worked out for both of them, really. That was a great ending.
Yeah.
And fuck Seymore. So I feel most bad for Zeno. Like, I really do feel bad for him. And Konstance, I think, had the best storyline.
So marry Konstance, fuck Zeno, kill Seymore.
Seymour's dead. I'm killing him instantly.
Zeno found his place later in life, and it's also just
at 80, bro.
Yeah, who knows? Who cares? You know, like he found happiness, found his calling. You know, when he said he started working on those ancient Greek texts, he was like, "Oh, this is it." You know, after working for the highway for 40 years and feeling like he never got his shot, he found it.
Killing himself or taking one for the team, blowing
No,
himself up with a
by
bomb?
translating those texts, and he even said at the end before he did it, he's like, I'm 86, like my life's over, like.
Oh, I respect the shit out of him. I love that from him.
Let's settle this. So I think I agree with you. I do like I'm a big history guy, so just seeing these ancient cities and being part of that, I didn't like the journey from creating the canon to Constantinople just because of all the animals dying. That was terrible. But them casting the canon I thought was super cool. Just the idea of this bronze work at that point in history and gunpowder's really just coming around. And obviously there's a lot of religious notes to it. So like people have to be praying over this thing that it works out and like doesn't crack in the mold. And it just seemed like, what a spectacle. What a crazy thing that actually happened. This was really happening. I know this is a story, but this was based on, an actual siege of Constantinople. And it just, you picture these things, you watch Lord of the Rings and you're like, oh, that's crazy. But minus the orcs and flying lizards and stuff, it really all happened in one way or another. So,
Okay.
A little bit of background on the book. Doerr says that Cuckoo Land takes inspiration from several other books. One of is Antonius I can never say this name. Dionysus, whatever. Although the book Cloud Cuckoo Land, the Codex, is fictional, it was created by Doerr. He credits it to Dionysus, whatever. I don't really understand how that works, like how you can just like credit that to somebody, but hey, you know what? He did. So there you go. And Zeno's Korean War experience was inspired by a book that was like about the oral history of Korean War POWs. Because I was also wondering, I was like, this is very specific. Did he study all this stuff? Which is crazy that authors do this. And that's why it was most interesting to me too with this background is that Doerr was researching defensive walls, like just how defensive walls work and stuff for all the light we cannot see. And in doing that research, he kept finding references to Constantinople and specifically this, so he researched into that and found out about the siege in the mid 1400s and he was fascinated by the story. And so he's like, all right, I'm going to write about it. And that's part of how Cloud Cuckoo Land came around. All right, let's get into some love hates. Keith, what'd you love about Cloud Cuckoo Land?
It's a smart person book, It's I think the
makes
stories
you feel
were
good
all
about yourself.
Yeah, that's really what the reading's all about. All the stories are really interesting. They're all from a very different perspective. They're all seemingly written like a different person, was writing them, which is amazing. How talented this dude is. I told you I love Konstance's story. That story alone, I would make that a book itself. Easy day. I'm reading that. I was a big fan. I mean, it did start slow, but I think the ending and everything kind of coming together, it was a good payoff.
Yeah, beautiful coalescing, that's for sure.
Whoa. Yeah. Coalescent bonds?
Covalent. My love is, I just love the ending where the Argos is still on Earth. I was like, whoa, what? Like that shook me. I was like, wait, what?
And how she found that out? Crazy.
Yeah, like we were kind of saying, like that alone could be its own story. Like that wasn't really like super sci-fi type. Obviously there are some sci-fi elements, but it would just be a very interesting like standalone story. And this like contagion somehow gets on and they're like, wait, how is this happening? And she cuts out of the ship and she's just in the middle of the desert in friggin' Nevada. Like, what the fudge is happening? She might not even know.
How did the contagion get in anyways? So everything's sealed off, right? So I don't really get how the contagion, they're like, in space it would never happen. In the desert it would? Who are you coming in contact with?
Well, I think there's lots of ways it could happen. It could just be a gene mutation, or like he was saying with the plants that, they even talk about that now. They're like, with all this ice melts and stuff in the polar ice caps, that there's viruses that are frozen in there that all of a sudden come out that we don't even know what they are. So it could be the same with like any of the plants they had that could just jump and who knows, So crazy stuff can happen. So yeah, I like the Argos being on Earth. That was a fun twist for me. I kind of talked about it, but I love the idea of like reading to each other as a way to distract or like heal. That happens a few times in the book. We talked about it like with Anna when her son's really sick and she like pulls out the book because Omeir thinks it has like healing properties, but really like maybe it does, maybe stories do have healing properties. And just having someone read to you, I know like when I was a kid and like you're not feeling well, like your mom would read to you or whatever the case was. Anna during the siege, like reading to her sister as she was passing away and like alleviating some of that pain. And then obviously Zeno, like towards the end, when there's a friggin' eco-terrorist in the library and they're changing the writing of the story. They're talking about a story as opposed to distract. So I like the idea of stories or reading as a way to distract or heal.
I like that. It's a good one.
I also loved, we talked about this a little bit earlier, and you talked about it as a smart person book, and there was a lot of stuff that was over my head, but in a way that it's almost like a good movie where you could go back and take more from it. Like, I don't think it was like super duper smart, like you're reading some, very dense text. There's just a lot of subtext that I was kind of trying to follow just the story itself, but maybe the second time through, I'd be more interested in like learning the subtext, and I get something more out of it, and I feel like you could do that a few times with this story because
and you could see the seeds being planted.
Yeah, for sure.
Stuff.
Oh, seeds, Konstance.
You like that? Exactly. Yeah. Little double entendre without the sexual stuff. Remember we talked about that?
We did talk about that. What'd you hate?
It's not like a beach read, I wouldn't say. This would be a very tough book to like pick up and put down real quickly. So you're like, whose character is this? What world are we in? Where are we? So this would be more of, I feel like, a long weekend, Christmas weekend. You're snowed in. All right, I gotta get through a book. This one's like a sit down and just tank through it type thing.
Cozy fireplace, someone's handing you cookies and some muddled wine. Ooh,
and people are like, how do you like that book? You're like, you wouldn't be able to handle it.
Yeah. Really talk down to them. Yeah.
Oh, you have to. Yeah. It's like, I like it. I don't think you'd be able to get it.
Yeah. They're like, tell me what it's about. You just like laugh. Oh my God.
Yeah. You just sigh. Yeah. It's cute that you'd ask that, but.
And then you have to include in there at some point, you give them like just the baseline, but then you have to say like, but it's so much more than that. It's so much more than that.
Yeah, I couldn't really do it justice. You'd have to read it, but you probably wouldn't be able to do it.
You probably wouldn't understand.
And then I did think the connections, I mentioned it earlier, but the connections were a little bit forced, it seemed like. The only reason that, again, that Seymore was manipulating the code is that so that he'd leave like breadcrumbs for Konstance later on, which I was like, I guess, what? I don't know. It didn't really make a ton of sense, but yeah, that was fine.
That checks out. But yeah, kind of similar to me in some sense where, and I kind of already talked about it a little bit, but the short chapters hopping between characters and time, a little confusing for me. Like I said at the beginning, Zeno being in two different time periods also threw me off. So it was like, we're talking about Zeno, but I'm like, wait, is this the same Zeno? Because now he's in the Korean War and he's a child. But we also just met this other guy. Like, is Zeno that common of a name?
They tell you it was Seymore pretty quickly. I feel like they should have kind of not told you that, right? I don't know. We would have figured it out. But I mean, it seemed like they were just like, and this is Seymore. You're like, oh, the terrorist? Like, so you don't really care about his backstory anymore. You're like,
maybe it's just like a villain origin story kind of thing. Darth Vader. But for those short chapters hopping between them, I felt like I just didn't get enough to fall into that one storyline before it jumped to another sometimes.
Yeah.
So it was just like a little too fast for me. And I'm picking nits, really. I liked it overall. Listener mail. We did get an email recently from a wonderful listener.
You've got mail.
About a previous pod, but I just wanted to share it because this is the kind of stuff, if you're going to write in, like, this is the kind of stuff that really tickles my fancy because, so this is, I don't know if I want to say the person's name because I didn't ask if they could read it. So I'm just going to read the actual body. Hi guys, it's out of left field, but I have to comment on one of your episodes. The Song of Achilles is my favorite book of all time. And in that episode, Dylan, that's me, says that one part that bothered him is when Achilles and Patroclus have their first sex scene. Aye, boys. Achilles rolls over and pretty much goes to bed without reciprocating. But that is not true. It was very reciprocal on both sides. You may be thinking of a later scene in the book when they were kind of fighting. Anyways, I know that this is way after the episode and you're probably thinking, what the fuck is she talking about, lol, but that part of the book is one of the most moving scenes I've ever read, and I'm not a big romance book person. Anyways, absolutely love your podcast and hope it continues for years to come. Really appreciate that email, and like I said, the reason why I wanted to read it, because that's straight up our alley. The fact that it's like, I don't know, 60 episodes later, and someone's talking about some sexual intercourse between a couple people that I, didn't convey properly as to what was happening, and it's all surrounding this one sex
Was that
scene.
the HJ scene, right? Wasn't that the first scene, an HJ scene?
Yeah, I think it's an old-fashioned. Yeah, I think there's an old-fashioned involved.
Is that what you call it? Old-fashioned?
I think it's from a South Park episode.
Okay.
It's from the Food Network episode. But yeah, so maybe I was talking about a later one when they were in a fight. And, we've all been there with our loved ones and get in a fight and you try to settle it with some intercourse. And, maybe some person leaves still unhappy. But yeah, my bad. Like I said, hand up.
I must be in a lot of fights with
All I can say is hand up, my bad. And as we all know, we're going to make those mistakes from time to time. And if you want to call us out on it, we are more than happy to take that. So thanks for writing in. We really do appreciate that. Keith, Cloud Cuckoo Land, I think it's like 12 hours, right? 12 hours? Very doable.
I think it's 14.
14. Very doable. Yeah. Would you recommend it to listeners and friends and family and those at your Christmas holiday party?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I definitely recommend it. I would say, hey, you got to get through the first 5 hours. Stick with it. Just battle through it, because I do think it's slow and your head's still spinning a little bit. But once you get through that, you kind of start to understand the characters. You start understanding where you are, and you're like, all right, now my feet are wet. Let's get into this for real. But the first 5 hours, I was like, I don't know about this book. This is tough.
Yeah, I think if someone asked me and they were going to start reading it, they're like, oh, I'm going to start reading it soon. I'd be like, all you need to know is there's 5 characters, because I think I got so thrown because I just thought they were just going to keep introducing characters, and I was going to have no idea who they were. It's just never ending. If you're like, hey, it's only 5 characters. And so, just keep a little note, a sticky pad on front of your phone or on the front of the book, just being like Omeir, Anna, Konstance, Zeno. That's really all it's Seymore. And just write those names down and be like, those are the only people you need to follow.
Yeah.
And it would probably make it a little bit easier. But yeah, I was kind of talking trash. I was talking a little bit of trash between the two of us before I had finished. And I was probably at that 5 hour mark. And I loved it. I thought it was awesome. I thought it was really good.
There you go. Wow.
Yeah.
All right.
Super innovative. Not like anything else we've read. Just fun.
I thought I was going to have to go to bat for it here. I thought I was going to be able to defend it. All right.
No, it was a thinker, but the story itself was really good. So, I didn't feel ashamed that I wasn't thinking at times. And then I felt proud of myself when I was thinking at times. So it does it all. Does it all.
There you go.
Yeah. What do we got coming up next?
We're going to go back into the world of your favorite author.
A childhood author, yeah.
Oh, sorry, childhood author. And we're going to do Matilda by Roald Dahl. So that'll be coming up next. That's a shorter one. We're going to be also doing Coded to Kill, a book by an author, and an author interview coming up as well. So got a couple on the horizon. And then I think we have a reader suggested book that we're going to throw on the tablet as well. A lot of exciting stuff coming in 2024. Stick around, subscribe, review, listen.
Might have do something special for the 100. 80 episodes. Look at us.
Oh, got to. And I think we got your book coming up, kid.
Can we do it? We're doing it. It's official.
We're definitely doing it.
Can
we got to start
the people so they can start reading.
Yeah.
We're going to do Shogun by James Clavell.
D-Man's favorite book.
Favorite book of all time.
Big expectations.
It's a 1,000-page book. So if you're interested in listening to that, I'm going to be bringing it. That's for sure. We're going to do a few different episodes, but that's coming next year. So preview. Matilda coming up next.
A lot on the horizon.
80 and Keith, it's been real. Catch you next week for Matilda.
For sure. Thanks to all the listeners in 2023. See you in 2024. Let's go.
Peace.
See you.
Bye now.
Bye now.